What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the Biker Channel, B1. Fuck that up again. I was supposed to say, what's up, Biker Bar? But apparently, I don't have my shit together yet. So here we are. In case you guys haven't noticed, I have this great lamppost next to me. That's Steve Y. In case you guys don't know him, he's actually the very first subscriber that ever came out and rode with me. So he's not actually the guest on the show. He's just going to sit here, look pretty, ish,
letting the locks hang.
Yeah, all that beautiful hair that we use, like Pantene or something.
Absolutely
sweet.
B1KER Pro oil.
There you go. Right. So before we get started, just want to tell you guys thank you so much for hanging out with us again. Here we are every week, usually on Sundays at 5 p.m. PST. But this week I have some family obligations going on tomorrow, so keep the wife and the life happy, or however the fuck that saying goes. Screwed that up too. I'm rolling really shitty dice right now. So anyways, let's get started here. So first of all, if you guys throw up a super chat, thank you so much. I might not be able to address everybody. I usually don't call that out, but I do appreciate it. That's the shit that keeps the channel going. It is much appreciated, because I have obviously a serious problem with buying beer. I mean, I don't drink it, I just buy it. So when you guys are donating to the channel, you're taking care of that shit. If you haven't been on my Facebook or my Instagram, please do that. It's at BikerB1. I'm trying to grow that. It's coming along. It's coming along.
Doing
well. Yeah. I mean, I got this guy, so I got
me in
two or three of you guys. That's about it. So check that out. If you're wondering what's going on with group rides, sometimes I throw that up there. But if you really want to know what's going on with group rides, like today, why this guy's here, join my Patreon. You can do that for $1 a month. It's $1, seriously. And if you want some stickers, that's the good way to go about it. $5 a month, join the Patreon on that level, get a sticker pack, might even write you a letter, tell you how much I love you. Think about some other, there could be some some deep soul conversation in that letter, or it's just going to be me telling you thank you. It's up to you. You'll only know if you join the Patreon. So moving on from that, working out talk in English, Rob. That's what you need to do. So if you guys want a hat that doesn't say hand up on it like this, you want one that says biker on it, stop by shop.biker.com and you'll get that. And otherwise, let's go ahead and get started. Today, I have a guest on that I actually met at this point. Man, it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago.
Hey,
I bought a bike from this guy. So, and I had no clue who he was until he showed up in my garage. We started chatting. So this guy is apparently a professional rider. At the time he was riding for Marin, he's riding for somebody else. His name is Kyle Warner. Who are you riding for now, Kyle?
I ride for Felt Bicycles. So that's my frame sponsor. And then Felt Bicycles, SR Sun Tour, Shimano, PNW Components, Fly Racing. Got a bunch of guys that help me out. Michelin tires, all kinds of good stuff. So yeah, I got a big crew of sponsors that help me out and get me on the road. So
that's awesome, man. So where are you at right now? You're actually originally from Chico, right?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Chico, California. And then I basically moved up to Boise, Idaho about a year and a half ago. I met my girlfriend that I have now and kind of started hanging out with her a bit more. And then I was living out of my van for a full year in 2017. So I was kind of no tie downs, nothing, just kind of floating. And then once I met her, she kind of sucked me into Boise, and then I've been here ever since. We actually just bought a house. So
oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Women have a way of making you grow some roots, man, but it's not a bad thing to do.
No, it's good. Yeah. And it was kind of crazy going from full, van again, just living and traveling, no roots whatsoever. And then going to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. But
so whenever you're doing the van life, the pro bike rider stuff, how do you go about meeting a chick?
Actually, no, I'm pretty bad at the Tinder game. I just kind of run into them randomly at the bars and stuff for out riding and whatnot. But yeah, my girlfriend April, she actually works at Fly Racing. She's a gear designer.
Oh yeah, I know who they are.
Yeah, so they're my gear sponsor, and I did a media launch with them, and she was there riding and kind of hit it off, and then have been kind of going since then, which was 2017 end of it. So
that's a good way to lock in a sponsor. You're like, man, my girlfriend, then I got sponsor for sure.
Yeah, fly racing does gear and girlfriend.
Right. This is like they were like, this is the way we're gonna set this guy up.
Yeah, totally. So it's been really cool. But yeah, everything's good. And now that I'm a little bit more rooted, kind of just figuring out ways to bring value to the table. And I've raced for a long time, and now I'm not racing quite as much. Just want to do more stuff, testing, kind of like what you guys are doing with the podcasting stuff and YouTube videos. And I have a pretty strong Instagram following, but that doesn't always like relate to building relationships with people because it's such a quick interaction.
Yeah, totally. I know exactly what you're saying.
So yeah, just kind of working on bringing value to the table and sharing some of the experience and knowledge I've learned from racing, as a privateer, essentially my whole career. And I was North American Enduro Tour champion in 2014, 15, and 16. So we did like back to back with Marin, and it was really awesome. But I mean, we were wrenching on our own bikes every weekend, setting them all up, trying to figure out what to do, ordering parts, doing a lot of the legwork there. So I've learned a lot over the years. And if I can help people avoid some pitfalls, along the way, just by sharing
when I met you, so I should probably just tell the story. So I had a single speed, like aluminum bike. I don't like riding road at all, but I was trying to think of a way that I could burn more calories so that I could drink more beer. And so I bought this single speed and I started commuting to work, and I was going like, I don't know, it's like 16 miles each way doing that. And then my lady, she used to mountain bike with me a lot. She got T-boned by somebody. And through that process, her mountain biking game kind of got pushed back a little bit because it screwed her back up. So she started getting into road riding more. And when she did that, she's like, hey, let's start doing these road rides. And you can only do so many road rides with the single speed. And so I started looking for, I was like, man, I can't bring myself to spend money on a road bike, but maybe I could bring myself to buying a CX bike, because I'm pretty close. I live in downtown Sacramento, and there's a paved trail that goes all the way up to a trail system in what's called Granite Bay. And the Granite Bay trail system, like a lot of CX guys ride up there. So I was like, oh, if I bought a CX bike, I could just leave from my house, go up there, do some riding on the trails, and come home. And then if my lady wants to do like a road ride that has a bunch of elevation on it, then I'll actually have gears. I could throw some slicks on it, and that'll be that. So I start looking on Craigslist because I'm a cheap ass. And there's this dude selling this bike from Chico. And I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, this is a really good deal. Like, I'm not exactly sure why this guy's giving this bike up, because it's like DI2 electronic shifting, freaking carbon frame, and we're in the sub 2000 zone at what we're talking about for prices. And so I'm kind of thinking to myself, maybe this dude stole this bike. So I'm texting back and forth, and he kind of sounds like he knows what he's talking about. So, in the best that you can in a text, it's not like, tell me your stats, bud. So this dude shows up to my house with this bike, and he rolls up in a Sprinter van, but it's totally base white, nothing. It's not built out. He's got a bunch of bikes in the back of it. And it's so if he did steal this bike, he stole a couple other really good bikes.
All the bikes.
All the bikes.
All the bikes.
Right? And he might have stole the Sprinter too. So I start talking to the guy, and I'm like, I'm just this fucking fat mountain biker, right? That's bullshitting my way into a road bike-ish. And I start talking to the guy. I'm like, oh, you ride much? And he's like, oh, yeah, I ride a little. And and lo and behold, he's like, yeah, I ride enduro and some downhill stuff. I'm like, oh, cool. How long you been doing that? Well, he's like, well, I'm actually a professional rider for Marin. And right about then, I was like, yeah, typical fucking Rob fashion, just insert foot in the mouth. I was gonna tell him at that point, oh, I got a YouTube channel, but I was like, yeah, no, shut the fuck up, dude. So we ended up chatting, and lo and behold, that this is Kyle Warner that was selling the bike. So I ended up buying the bike from him, and and now then, my channel grew, and I actually got to a point where I wanted to tell him that I had a YouTube channel, and we bumped into each other, I think like a year later or so in Sedona.
Yeah, either there or maybe even at Interbike for a brief moment too. But definitely,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So, and then from there, and then here we are. We kept talking about like getting together and doing this podcast together. So here we are today.
No, I'm stoked. Yeah. It's cool.
Fun.
Yeah. Totally.
I recently met Richie Rude, and I challenged him to a race. He didn't think, he thought that was kind of funny, and so did I. But I had mentioned to him, I was like, oh yeah, I've done this podcast with a bunch of other people like Andrew Taylor and Jeff Lanowski, and I was like, I got Kyle Warner coming on. Like, it was enough name dropping that he was like, oh yeah, this guy's not just fat. He actually might know a few of these people, or maybe somewhat freaking part of this community. So what I'm curious about, dude, is like, how do you get started to get to the level that you're at?
As far as like, how do you get the skill level there, or like get the support around you?
Let's back up further than that. Like, how did you like get into riding bikes, man?
So I have like kind of a bit different story than most guys who end up racing, but essentially what happened to me is, grew up, we were super broke, like living in Chico. It was a single mom, and she's been on disability for depression for as long as I can remember, really. And so I was always kind of trying to help her out and stuff. And she got really sick when I was in high school. And because of that, I started ditching school a bunch and started kind of failing out. So like my sophomore year, my GPA was 0.5 for the second semester. So it's not killing it.
Yeah. You're like, send it.
Yeah. And before that, like, so basically I was just, at home to help take care of my mom. And then I got a job at 15 to try to help support the house a bit. And because of all that, I was failing out of school, and I couldn't really play football anymore. That was like what I wanted to do, is always play football for the school. And
what position did you play?
I played QB, but I was always second string. We had a good first string guy. So I never really, I played a couple of times on the field.
You're like Johnny America. You're like, I used to be a quarterback, then I decided to be a professional fucking mountain biker.
Yeah. Well, what happened is basically with me, like kind of dropping out of school almost, and all the teachers thought I was just a fuck up, full, just a waste of life at some point, but they didn't realize what was going on behind the scenes. And like my sophomore year, I missed 186 first periods, and there's 220 of them in a year.
Yeah.
So like, I was just always busy and trying to help my mom out. And then when football kind of fell apart, I had a really bad coach and I ended up quitting. Just everything was kind of piled on me. And I had a couple friends that would go down to the dirt jumps like after school. And so I started trying to like find a cool little friend group that went and rode, and really clicked with those guys and just started riding a ton. And like
at that point, you're just like, did you have like any kind of like BMX background, or
No, not really at all. And at that point I listed all my stuff on Craigslist, funny enough. And I sold like my Xbox, my GameCube, all my games. I sold like everything I could find in the house, and I saved up $100 and I went to Walmart and bought like a BMX bike.
That's awesome, dude.
So my first BMX bike was a Next, like, $68 BMX bike. And I got like a Camelback too. So I had $100 to spend.
Right on.
So I started going out of the jumps with that and just rallying, and everyone was laughing at me because I just had a piece of shit bike, but I would be there like, basically all day, because I was just ditching school, trying to go like get some stress relief from that.
One of the things that I always tell people, and they don't always fucking believe it, but it's not the bike that you ride, dude. It's the engine, and like, that's really inspirational of what you're saying, dude. I kind of had a similar start, like whenever I got into mountain biking originally. Like, my mom started dating some guy that was into mountain biking back in the 90s, and they bought me a bike from Montgomery Ward's. And I was out there riding with these guys that were like, had all these badass bikes. And it was just like, that's what I could afford, man, to get
totally.
But it made me a stronger rider, because I was riding this like 50-pound fucking tank, and I was keeping up with these other guys that were riding good bikes. And I mean, good bikes at the time, they were still all
like hardtail.
Fully rigid bikes. They were like, I remember the first time somebody showed up with a full suspension bike, and they paid like $1,500 for it, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, why would you do that? You know, but either way, like whenever I ended up getting rid of that bike and getting like a real mountain bike, it made a big difference, you know?
Yeah, it makes you appreciate when things work. And
yeah,
like, dude, this one memory I have that like was a distinct memory from that whole time period. This is when I was about 15 and a half, is I was riding my next BMX bike. I got a front flat tire and I was like, oh, okay, fuck it. Like, we'll just keep riding. It was like Friday evening, you know, I'm like, oh, I'll just keep riding. I don't want to go home yet. Front flat tire, kept hitting the jumps, was like not able to hit the corner very good. So I cased one real hard, got a flat rear tire. And then I was like, oh, I still don't want to go home. Like, I'll just keep ripping it. So I'm like hitting the jumps with 2 flat tires, is coming up short on them, bent the cranks, ended up like breaking my crank arm. It was a single piece crank. And I was just like laying there like, fuck, like, what am I going to do now? You know, and it was funny because some of the guys at the bike shop, local bike shop, had kind of taken note of me already, just because I was always going in, hanging out, and just, I really liked the vibe of being around nice bikes.
Yeah.
And so they helped me kind of get set up on like a nice specialized BMX bike for like a used one for $300. And that was really cool. And that was like my first step towards like an actual bike, and, you know, brakeless BMX, just kind of riding whatever. And that's how I learned how to dirt jump.
I kind of had started out BMX, but more like street BMX. Like, we would just ride around town, and like essentially we were doing like tabletops and shit, where it would be like you're jumping over an alleyway.
Totally.
Or you're jumping over this, or like it would be like we would spend all day just riding around town to that other jump that we knew of, or that other like little spot that we could session. And I didn't have like good bikes either, like originally, and I took this job. I wasn't even 16 yet, so you couldn't like get a job legally, and I got this job at this pizza shop that paid me like $20 an hour. They were like, or not $20 an hour, $20 a day. So like I would work there for like 10 hours for like $20. And I was like, I had a Mongoose bike on layaway at the like local bike shop. And when I got that bike, man, it was like the thing to have. But it was just like what you were saying, like back then we would take all our brakes off and stuff because you wanted your bike to be as light as it could be. And
totally.
Like that's how you like kind of like almost like your bragging rights of like how long you've been riding would be like how deep the cut in your shoes were from using your shoe for a back brake, you know?
Yeah. Or how much blood you had pooled on your shin.
Yeah, right.
But
back then, I mean, I know you're a bit younger than me. I'm pretty sure you're a bit. How old are you?
26.
Yeah, quite a bit younger than me. Thanks for that. And so like back then we would ride vans, but the vans that we were riding were like the old like boat shoe kind of like version, you know, where it's just a canvas shoe with the little rubber bottom, and pedals sucked, dude. And the ones that you did ride, they just come up and just beat the shit out of your shit.
Yeah, I remember those days big time. And it was funny because like basically, like I said, about 15 and a half got the first good bike, and really like was able to fall in love with riding more and more. Because like you said, like when the lights went out and the sun went down, the only thing that you could do is go to the college campus and ride all the lit stairwells and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, hit 2 stairs and 3 stairs and try to bunny hop and land in a manual and do all these fun things. So the high school that I went to, the high school that I ditched every single day, I'd go to every night and ride the 2-stair there. and just learn how to like jump it. And then it was kind of like a pad, so you could jump manual across and then land. And that's what I just did every night. Because at that time, my mom was pretty sick, and just being around it was really difficult. Like, obviously you want to be there to support as much as you can, but like, it's really draining being kind of like the man of the house at 16. So I was, as soon as she was basically out, like asleep or whatever, I'd just go out and ride till 1 or 2 in the morning, and then, you know, go to bed eventually, wake up late for school, miss first, second period, then try to pin it to school and get 1 or 2 in there. But at a certain point, like, you know, we had Child Protective Services knocking on the door, like, you've missed too much school. Like, you know, my mom was going to get in trouble. And so I just started looking around and found homeschool, and enrolled myself kind of in a homeschool program in Chico. And then that way I'd only have to meet with the teacher once every 28 days, and basically could just ride all day, every day, and then do my homework in 3 days before I had to meet. And just, you know, that was like my life from then on for the last 2 years of high school, was doing the homeschool thing. And that was like the best decision I ever made. And it was tough a little bit from like a social standpoint because you don't have your friends you go hang out with every day at school. But my friend group was the people at the dirt jumps, and the older guys would be there during the day, and then all my friends would get out of school at 3, and then we'd all just go shred till dark and then go to the college campus after that. So it was really fun. I enjoyed those days a lot.
Yeah, no, I hear you there, dude. Freaking, I at one point I'd lived with my grandmother, and my grandmother actually worked second shift. So she would basically be going to work whenever I would be leaving or I would be getting home from school. And then it was just like, same thing, go out, ride bikes. That's all we did. And I had like my group of BMX friends that I rode with, like that were all my age. And then my mom, like I had said, had got together with this guy that was into mountain biking. And oddly enough, like even after they had broken up, I still would mountain bike with him and all his friends, which is like looking back on it now, I'm like, that's interesting. But but it worked out, and that's kind of like what got me into mountain biking was like, it was like a different way to ride bikes more,
Mm-hmm.
and that just like fueled the fire, How did you end up getting into mountain bikes then from all the dirt jumps and stuff?
So basically what happened was, I was dirt jumping on the BMX bike a ton. And then I'd seen a couple guys, there's this crew that's kind of famous, but, like Zach Dank is this guy that used to build some really sick trails up in Chico, Magalia Forest Ranch area. And he would have like, the McCalls, the Seminuk, like all these guys come down to ride the jumps in Chico. So there was like a really strong dirt jump scene of hardtail guys. And I started to see those guys and they were just like shredders, and I really looked up to them. And eventually when I could afford it, I ended up buying a hardtail because at this point I was working at that bike shop that kind of helped me out get that specialized. So I was working, when I was as much as I could 3-4 days a week, and then would save up money, and I bought a hardtail. And then from that, we just started riding that on trails, like just having a good time, and actually learned how to dirt jump that pretty well. And then a few of the older guys that are on the Chico State mountain bike team came by the dirt jumps. They saw me riding.
All like dirt jumps. You weren't going out and like riding like Bidwell and like riding like single track.
We would too on the hardtail, just rear brake only, just go play around. But I mean, it was literally like 4 or 5 miles an hour, just picking your way down rock gardens. Like,
right.
Like I wasn't good at it at all, but I loved it and it was fun. But it was so far away from where I lived that pedaling over there was a beast. And I didn't actually get my driver's license till I was 18. So I was on a bike till then, basically just commuting on that and everything. But basically, once the Chico State guys saw me riding the dirt jumps one day, they're like, "Hey, like you have some good skill, like you can corner well." Because I really love lines where you like hit a hip and then corner and then boost out of, the corner, big jump afterwards.
Yeah.
So they saw that and they're like,
"I've seen that done. I don't do that."
But yeah, they were like, "Man, you would really like riding mountain bikes. Like, let's go." And I was like, "I'm down. Let's do it." So I borrowed a bike and they took me out into the hills, like kind of east of town a ways. And yeah, that was my first time really riding with those guys. And it was insane. And I remember that first day, like I was in the truck in the back shuttling, first time ever shuttling, first time riding single track mountain bike. Like I was like, dude, I want to do this.
They taught you right then. They were like, "Let me show you how awesome this is. Let's get in this shuttle."
Yeah.
So they didn't introduce you by like, "Let's go ahead and do this grueling fucking climb on Bidwell all the way out there and then freaking get you to do." I don't know how it is with Bidwell, dude, but that place is like uphill both ways.
Yeah, it is. It's rocky as hell. It's all lava flow. So like there's more rock than dirt. So like we get lucky. Like I count the amount of dirt patches you find on the trail,
Right.
So
I think with that place, whenever I rode up there, like I was like, if you're a local here, you know when to break into stuff, you know when to let it go, like so that you're like, oh, right around this corner is a steep ass little punchy climb. But when you're like coming up there and just riding it blind, that's a rough trail, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. It was like 2.5 hour drive from Sac. I was like, dude, I don't know if I want to do that again.
Yeah. Well, me and my best friend Adam, who was kind of my little dirt jumping buddy, like the jumps were right by his mom's house, so that's why I'd always go like steal, knock on the door. "Hey, is Adam home? Let's go ride." And me and him would go out and kind of play in Bidwell, and like we didn't know what the hell we were doing, and we'd literally hike up like 200-foot section of trail and just session it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what like a cross country ride was for years. And, you know, after I started riding, I was like, oh wait, you don't just walk up this hill and ride down it. So like we just play like that. But my first time actually like mountain biking was with the Chico State mountain bike team, and those guys were called the Thunderbringers. They're just a bunch of shredders, and
nice.
Yeah, and they taught me right for sure. And that was when I got hooked. So ever since that day, it was like full focus 180, and I stopped going to the dirt jumps as much and just started wanting to go fast. So I loved it.
So when you first did that, you said you borrowed a bike from someone?
Yep. Yeah, from my buddy Adam. So he had a mountain bike. His mom was able to kind of help him buy one, full suspension, like the old Norco 24-inch downhill bike.
Yeah.
So that was like the first one that I borrowed and rode for real. And then, yeah, Adam, if it wasn't for my friend Adam, I never would have been able to do that stuff. So
let me ask you a question. So going from like the Walmart bike that you were riding prior to that, how did it feel to ride an actual like true mountain bike?
Oh, it was insane. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's so hard to really fathom, because basically what I would do on the Walmart bike is I'd be like, oh, I want to hit that jump, and you land and your handlebars fly off and your grips shoot off and your pedals break off. And you're like, God damn it. Like, that sucked. Like, I just ate shit for no reason, you know? And then when you get on a nice bike, like I remember one time just dropping off like a 4-foot like loading dock, and I landed and was like, boom, and it was fine.
Yeah.
Like, no way. Like, this is sick.
You're like, nothing fell off. I don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah. Like, literally, like we used to just huck off stairs and you land and your handlebar just bends and you're like, fuck. Yeah. So that was the biggest thing I noticed, is just like durability and being able to push your limits and be like, oh, I think the bike will hold up to this, you know?
I think that's one of the things that like a lot of people don't realize, like when you buy a good bike, and when I say good bike, like you can get a sub $1,000 bike that's actually a decent bike nowadays. But like when you buy a bike that is actually not like a big box bike, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like they can actually take a little bit of beating, you know?
Totally.
And like I feel like nowadays, I mean, my Bronson is like a fucking $10,000 retail. You know what I mean? But I recently bought a Santa Cruz Chameleon, and it's like the bottom of the line. I bought purposely the bottom of the line bike, because I knew I could, you know, like work deals to get kind of, you know, parts to upgrade it. But I also wanted to like set my head straight on like, hey, like this is what it's like to buy, you know, something that's like right out the store. Like this is the bottom of the line one that they're selling. I mean, and granted, it's still an $1,800 bike. So, totally. I mean, but at the end of the day, one of the things that's really blown me away is it's 120 millimeters of suspension. It's a hardtail. And I'm still like, for the most part, I can be like right on some of my buddy's tail on like a lot of trail.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Whenever it gets like super chunky, it's like for an extended amount of time, they'll pull away from me because of that suspension, you know?
Totally.
But on most of the shit that a lot of people ride is not like, you don't need a 6-inch bike for it.
No, and I mean, dude, the first time I ever had a bike that had all the correct parts on it, like the right brake adapters and like the right, like a SRAM, you know, a Shimano shifter with a Shimano derailleur, like everything was actually meant to work together. That was 2014. Right. So it's like I was already racing pro for a couple of years, and like before that, I would run like the most raggedy setup you could imagine and just try to get by, because like I was super broke, you know, my family doesn't have any money, and I was just working at a bike shop, and I figured out that if I work 2 or 3 days during the week, I can take 2 or 3 days off and kind of like get through the weekend at a race. So that was all my money went at work, and then I'd spend it all at the race, and then work, spend it all at the race. So yeah.
So how did you get started then? So like you started riding the bikes with your buddies, and you guys are like sessioning some spots, and
yeah,
like when did you get to a point where you're like, I want to do a race?
So like that Thunderbringer, like Chico mountain bike crew, they basically brought me up to Ashland, and they were like, we're going to do this race called the Spring Thaw downhill. Like, you're going to kill it. Like, it's going to be awesome. And I was racing junior at the time. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, let's go. I just, you know, sleep on the floor with those guys and brought my bike up there. And yeah, first mountain bike race ever. Came out the gate. My chain fell off. It got sucked into the wheel, blew like 6 spokes out. And I flew off the side of the hill.
Oh, no.
So first race ever was a DNF, and I was pretty bummed. Like I had some pretty high hopes, you know, like you're like, oh, I feel good. Like I think I can do this. And all those guys were pumping me up like, oh, you're going to kill it, dude. But yeah, first race ever DNF. And then a week later, there was a Mount Shasta downhill, and they brought me out for that. And I ended up winning. And that was, you know, first race I ever completed.
At what level?
At junior expert.
Okay.
So,
oh, wow, dude. So like you went in strong then, dude.
Yeah, I was 16, like 16 and a half first time I ever did a race. And I was basically went straight in junior expert, did one half of a season.
Why did you start there? Like how did you know that you should ride at expert? Or you just were like, I'm a badass. I got this.
No, not at all. Like I didn't know there was really other options. I was like, you know, all my buddies were pro and they raced pro and they were really good. And I just was always riding with them. So they were like, oh yeah, sign up for this. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I didn't know anything about it. Never been to a race. I'm like, where do I pick up my number plate? You know?
Yeah.
So it was just all new to me and fun. And they were like, do this. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. Did it, won. I'm like, sweet, this is cool.
So how did it go? Like, how did that race go for you? Like you were like just in your head, like, oh, I'm not doing good enough. I'm not doing good enough. And then all of a sudden you found out you won, or like,
no, like,
you were like, no, dude, I'm fucking slaying these people right now.
I don't know. I think that what's funny about me, especially because I became like more of a racer, is that I'm not like a super competitive person with other people. I'm more competitive with myself. So essentially when I'm doing a race, I'm always like, God damn it, why'd you mess that turn up? Why'd you do this? Like, or, oh, you need to hit this, like figure out these lines. And I don't even care how I do against everyone else. It's like how my run went for myself. So even then I was like, oh, I hope I can make it down clean. I don't die. And I'll be stoked, you know?
Yeah, for me, I'm not competitive with strangers. Like people are always like, oh, you should do a race or whatever. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about any of those people. I just want to beat like my friends.
Totally.
So like you know, so like I can kind of relate with what you're saying in that manner, where it's like I don't really have that need for it any other way than just like I just want to go out and have a good time. And it means more to me to like I'm never going to beat any of my friends up the hill. I've never been, like even when I'm in like super good shape, like way lighter than I am right now. Like I'm just one of those guys that's a slow climber.
Yeah.
But I've always been able to like smash on the down, you know? So like for me, it's like, that's always where it's like, okay, well, fuck you guys. You guys will get up there 5 minutes before me. But once we get to the top, gravity's on my side, motherfucker. You know?
Yeah, it was weird. Cause like for me, I'd never really gotten like that level of, like kind of people being stoked for you and like helping you, supporting you, and you know, just having a community that's like, dude, you fucking killed it, like this is awesome. And so I remember after that first race when I got that taste of like, if you do good and you are fast, people will like you more. And I was 16 years old dealing with a bunch of shit at home still, and I'm like, I gotta be fast, like I want to do this because I want people to like me. And that was basically how I started racing, was like, if I did well, people would be stoked and would try to help me out. And, you know, I just wanted people to kind of like me and invite me to the rides with them. So,
you took a better route than me. I was like, if I show up with beer or I sell them weed, they'll like me. And apparently that wasn't the right way to attend to like to put my attention, but
yeah,
for the short term, right?
Totally. No, and I
can't remember shit now, but
yeah, it's funny.
So you did that race, so that just got you started then. So
yeah, that kind of just flipped the switch on, and then from there I wanted to race every weekend I possibly could, and I raced all the North Star races, and then I got picked up by Specialized at the end of that year because I was winning junior expert at like the North Star races and all that. Specialized picked me up and gave me a frame and a dirt jumper. How does
that happen? Like they just like pull you aside at the race and they're like, hey, or like you knew somebody, like they called your house.
Yeah. So basically, like through the Chico crew, one of the guys that graduated from Chico State, his name is Matt Sipes, and he actually was working at Specialized at the time. And so he was friends with all the guys that were helping me out, and then they kind of put in a good word for me, and they gave me a frame and wanted to support me and just thought that I would be a good fit for the brand, which was cool at that time. And I was a total idiot. I didn't even know like that with sponsorship that you should like tag people or like post videos or like, you know, I didn't know anything on that end. So I was a pretty terrible athlete to sponsor, but I was like fast at the junior X level.
So is that something that they expect, you know, like whenever you get sponsored now, is like that, like the social media presence side of it, or?
Yeah, big time. Like there's full on like paragraphs of social media clauses and how much you're supposed to post and where you're supposed to hashtag and when you're supposed to do it. And it's crazy. Wow. And they'll send you, like, when I was writing for Smith glasses, they would send me like, hey, it's National Sunglass Day. Like, here, post this photo with this hashtag with this caption. And I was like, no, like, that's stupid. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, it's different. Like, it's interesting to hear it from that perspective, because the way that, like, that I am kind of doing business with these different companies is definitely on a whole different, like, kind of level, you know. But it's definitely that's really interesting to hear, because, like, I know that everybody kind of, like, brokers their own deal, you know what I mean? But I definitely have, like, come into things more where it's like, if somebody's trying to tell me, like, hey, you need to do X, Y, Z, I'm like, nah, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, like, if you want to, like, have some kind of partnership with, like, for me, I'm not getting paid by anybody, but maybe it's just parts or something.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I guarantee you, like, your parts will be in my social media. I will talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Or I'll talk to people about it. I will be an ambassador on the trail for you about it. But, like, I can't freaking do what you just said a minute ago, because I will lose all the integrity of, like, what my brand is, you know?
Totally. And, you know, I've been fairly independent my whole life, and, you know, kind of just been my own kid and found my way through all that stuff. So when people tell me that I need to do this or put this face forward, you know, you're like, fuck off, because that's not who I am. And, like, that's not why I got into this. At the end of the day, I don't care about race results. I don't care about any of that stuff. Like, all I wanted to do was do good enough so that people could help me, and I could just ride my bike around the world and have fun and meet friends. And that was it. That was my motivation, was like, if I do good, I might get sponsors. If I have sponsors, they might pay for stuff and I don't have to work as much and I can ride more. So I was like,
so when you left my house that day after I bought your bike, I was like, I should probably look this dude up, man. And I freaking like look you up, and sure as shit, man, like, you know, hella videos of you riding, and I watched you do this downhill run. And, like, I never really, I've never been a person like that's been like, oh, let's see what, like, pro riders do or watch videos, or, like, to me, like I said, I was always, like, just more concerned with my friends, you know? And when I watched you do that run, and it was like any section that you could possibly fucking pedal in, you were just, like, giving it every fucking thing you had. Like, there was no way that you could even say a word. Like, it was just like all the breathing that you could do, and you're just, like, hammering it. And I was like, holy shit, like, that's what it takes to win.
Yeah.
Like, for me, like, I never realized that. Like, in my head, it was just like, it was like, because I've never watched it, in my head, I was always like, oh, you just go fucking, like, smash the trail, you know? Like, I didn't think about it where it's like, no, dude, you were giving it 110 fucking %.
Totally.
All the way from the beginning to the end. And I was really impressed. Like, honestly, like I said, like, when you left out and I looked at that, I was like, man, that's impressive, man. Like, that's a solid effort, man.
Totally. No, I mean, I remember my first ever enduro race I did was in 2012 at Bend, like at Winoga Park. They had an enduro race there, and I was downhiller coming into enduro and just wanted to try it out. I was like, all right, this will be cool. And dude, we had like a 14-minute stage, and I was, I think, 17 or 18 years old, like, still not legal to drink or anything, but I came through the stage, tried so hard, I threw up all over my arm. Like, basically was riding down the trail, had puke all over my sleeve and on my arm, was just sprinting, came across the finish line, threw up again, then pounded a beer, like, threw it on the ground and just laid there. And everyone's like, how old is that fucking kid? And I was like, oh, like, dying, you know? Like,
yeah.
But it was so much fun. Like, I love kind of being able to push that hard. And, like, if you get a reward from it, you're like, oh, this is sick. Like, I'm willing to do this, you know, and be in the hurt locker. But
so you started out with that Specialized deal. And how long did that go before you went to the next level?
That was only 1 year, because, like I said, I sucked at being an athlete at that point in time, and I didn't know anything. So I did 1 year with them, and then I rode for Canfield Brothers Bikes. They're like a downhill bike company.
So at that point, you started, like, you were, like, full in on, like, down, like legit downhill at that point?
Yeah. So I raced Junior X downhill, and then I turned pro in 2011 for downhill. And I started racing the Pro GRT downhill series. in pro class. And then basically it was sponsored by Canfield for 11 and 12.
And Canfield's a big name in downhill bikes.
Yeah, they are, especially in North America. They had a really sick bike at the time called the Jedi. Yeah. And I love that bike, but basically I rode for them for 2 years. And then,
I mean, dude, you like worked your way into like some really big fucking names right out of the gate.
Yeah. And just,
like you didn't come in with some smaller like companies, like Specialized, like that's the fucking biggest gorilla in the room.
Totally.
And then you went to downhill with Canfield, and at that time, maybe people don't know Canfield as much now, but like at that time, like
they were sick.
Yeah, that was the bike. That was the downhill bike.
No, and that just came from like I always tried to just be appreciative of stuff, and being at the races. Like I went to literally every race I could, and so being around everybody, they're always like, "Who the hell is this kid?" Because I was always skidding into the finish line with shit flying off my bike and blood all over my arms. But I like in junior I raced 29 races and I won 26 and I hit 3 trees. So I was like basically like DNF 3 and then won everything else. And so
that's awesome, dude.
It was just, like the mentality was, I want to win and do good and I don't care what it takes, because that was literally like my path in my mind. I was like, I need to be pro. I need to do this. Because I couldn't afford bikes otherwise, and I couldn't afford to travel or race. And I was like, this is all I want to do with my life. Like, I need to be pro.
So at that point, like, as far as like people seeing you on the trail or at the race, like they're thinking, oh, he's sponsored. Like he's got his, like he's dialed. But it sounds to me like at home, you're still pretty fucking broke. And
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, even like at the race, I wasn't very presentable per se. Like, Specialized in Canfield would give me some frames, and then Deity Components is my next big sponsor in 2012, I believe I picked them up.
Did you say Deity?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so like with those, I was just getting product flow, but still like I raced in a t-shirt and whatever shorts I could find for years. I raced in my local bike shop t-shirt and, was winning races in that. And like, I wasn't like,
just real quick for people that aren't in the industry, when somebody says product flow, basically that means that they're giving you parts, but you're not getting any money.
Yeah. So basically when a sponsor gives you product, it's at a much lower cost to them. So, a downhill frame, like landed cost could be under $400 for them.
Right.
So they're giving you essentially a $400 tax write-off for them,
Right.
And like with handlebars and whatnot, it could even be, $20, $30 in product to get you through the year. And you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's just one of those things that here on YouTube that I think that a lot of people don't know is like what those industry terms are. Because most people that are watching, a lot of people that are watching YouTube, they're in this from the standpoint of like a regular Joe,
Totally.
So when they hear like, oh, this person's an ambassador, what does that mean? That still doesn't necessarily mean they're getting a paycheck.
No, and
you know what I mean? So it's like these like key terms that people hear, like that doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, there's a wide range for sure.
Right.
Because, I mean, I know guys that are, sponsored and they're paying 50% for product.
Right.
And you're like, that's not a sponsorship. That's
a sponsorship is supposed to mean you're getting a paycheck.
Exactly. And that's what I think a lot of people, they try to say, oh, I'm a pro mountain biker. But if you're not making a living from it, like if it's not your profession, then you're not a pro mountain biker, you're a hobbyist.
Right.
And at the end of the day, that's the distinction. And I was not a pro mountain biker until 2014. It was the first year I ever made money from it.
Right.
So like I raced.
So you had said a minute ago, 2011 was when you started racing pro. So it still took you 3 years of fucking killing it.
Yeah.
Before you got to a point where it was like, I don't need to do like odd jobs to like eat.
Yeah, it took me like 3 or 4 solid years before I even got a single paycheck from any company ever. So it was like you get free parts, and that was huge for me. And like basically I'd get enough product to kind of put my bike together most of the way. And then I'd pull tires out of the dumpster at the bike shop and, find old chains and put them together, like all kinds of stuff. Cause when you get a new chain on a bike, you cut it and there's like excess. So when I worked at the shop, I'd like take all the excess and make a chain, and that would be my chain. And
dude, like, that honestly, like, I love hearing this story, dude, because of that. Like, it's like, it just shows that like, it's determination. It's like, that's true grit that gets you there.
Totally. And it's also stupidity, because you gotta be committed to like, you gotta be committed to something that's not working. And that's like, you know, the definition of insanity is like doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Right.
And I'm literally like hitting every race, doing everything I can, trying to win races, doing everything, and I'm not making a single dollar. And you're like, yeah, I'm killing it. Like, let's keep going. And at a certain point, you know, when I was racing enduro, I timed it really well, luckily. Like 2011 was the first time they ever had an enduro race, like US anywhere, you know, or like anywhere in the world. It was like 2011 enduro race happened. And then I started racing in 2012 and was one of the early kind of adapters. And so 2013, I raced the full national series, just, you know, living floor to floor, kind of hopping around with my buddy.
So what does that mean? What does that mean for people that don't know what that means? What is the full national series?
So at the time there was a North American Enduro Tour. And so that meant that there was, I believe, 7 or 8 races across the US, mostly the Western side. So like from Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, and then kind of anything in that West zone. So there's like 8 key races throughout there, and we do those 8 races, and you get points at each event to try to win a, you know, national title. And so I did that. You're
like getting yourself to each location on your own, right?
Yeah, my friend Casey Kaufman was, you know, sponsored by the brand that I was sponsored by at that time in 2013 was Felt Bicycles. And so Casey was my friend and also sponsored rider from them. So we hopped in his old like 1970 something Astro van and just lived out of that for 6 weeks and hit every race we could. So it was a good time. It was a lot of work, but it was fun.
It was fun, I'm sure. I'm definitely sure it was fun.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's lots of good stories about road trips and stupid shit that happened, right?
Yeah, way too many. But but it was funny. So like with that year, I started to kind of come into my own, and I was, I believe, 19 years old, and came into my own that year a bit and started to do really well. And I got my first ever podium at like a national level professional event. So, you know, top 5 at a pro national event. First time I ever did that. And so at the end of that year, that event was the week before Interbike. So basically I got a podium. We turned around, drove all night from Oregon all the way to Chico, dropped all our shit off, then drove out to Nevada, and then did Interbike that whole weekend. And I basically was just slinging sponsorship resumes and proposals. And that was when I talked to the guys at Marin Bikes, and they decided to kind of come on board and be like an actual financial supporter of me. And
so you met them at Interbike then?
I did, yeah. So my friend Daryl Voss, who is an engineer, he does like the nailed suspension system. So Daryl actually introduced me to Matt, who is the CEO of Marin, and I chatted with Matt for a while, and yeah, he was really cool and just kind of liked my story, liked what I was all about, and was like, yeah, we'll help you out. And I told him, this is how much I need to get through a whole year. If you guys can do that, that'd be amazing. And basically they gave me, between them and SR Sun Tour, they gave me $18,000 in budget. And they're like, yep, go race, like do your thing. And so that was 2014 was the first time I was ever like a professional, like I said. So
how did that feel when you were like, dude, I'm getting fucking paid?
Yeah, it was so crazy, dude. Like I just so many times in life you get excited about things and last second they get swept out from under you, you know?
Right.
And so I like literally was like, it's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. Like just not trying to get excited until the day I signed the contract. And I was like, yes, like so stoked. And then a week after I signed my contract, they fired everybody at the company. And I was like, fuck. And it was just a change of, they changed the complete employee structure. But I called them and I'm like, am I still sponsored? They're like, yeah, you're good. I'm like, cool.
That's tough, man. I've built some good relationships with people in companies, and when they leave, you're like, well, what does that mean? You know?
It is. Yeah, it's hard. And then, you know, the hardest thing is you build a really strong relationship with whoever is your like point of contact. So like your athlete manager. And then you might not be able to build like a relationship quite as deep with like the other guys, but that athlete manager a lot of times leaves within 2 to 3 years. Like it's a high turnover job for whatever reason. And so it's hard because you just got to always do well and then try to have as many friends in each company as you can so that if someone leaves, you're not left hanging, you know?
At the end of the day, the one thing that I learned in the time that I've been doing this, and obviously I'm not at the same kind of level as you, but I'm definitely like kind of like getting to be a little bit more of a part of this community. The bike industry is really small.
Yeah.
You know, so like you definitely, it's about networking, and it's also about like good relationships. Like you could be a douchebag, and even if you're like doing good things, that may not play out well.
Totally. Yeah. And one kind of lesson I learned, luckily the easy way, was, I was always just really nice to the mechanics and stuff that were at the races. Like Shimano would have like a neutral support, or like whoever would have like a neutral support. So they'd help you work on your bikes if stuff went wrong. And I would always be like, really,
so neutral support means like they're not giving you parts. But
neutral support means that like a local bike shop decided to just show up, put up a tent, and if any racer's bike gets fucked up, they'll help you fix it to a certain extent.
Got it.
So sometimes like brands would do that as well. And I would always try to be really cool to those guys. And then like later on, a bunch of those guys ended up becoming marketing managers in the industry. And so you're like, whoa, like he was quote unquote a nobody, or someone who wasn't in a position to help me.
Right.
So people are like, oh, I don't waste my time with that. And you're like, dude, if he's a cool guy, be nice to him. Right. So a lot of athletes don't talk to those people. They just kind of, here's my shit, fix it later.
Yeah.
So I was always
a big move, man. I believe, dude, and obviously like what you're saying is like what goes around comes around, man.
For sure.
You're like, shit, dude, like that's gonna come back to you, man. And that's says a lot for your character,
Yeah. And if you can just be cool to everybody, and then later on they're like, oh, I remember that kid who was nice to me and had no reason to be nice to me. And you're like, and then later on they want to help you out. So that's where a lot of my sponsors have come from. But
right on, man. So you were the last that we were talking about sponsors, you were with Canefield, then you went from them to Felt?
Yep. Yeah. So
from Felt to Marin.
Yep. And then was Marin for 4 years and had 3 North American Enduro Championships in that time. So I won that title 3 times with them. And then I had one.
When you say that North American Championship, so basically like out of all Enduro racers, you were number 1.
So the EWS, which is the Enduro World Series, was still a thing, but there was also the North American Enduro Tour. And so that was an 8-round tour throughout North America. And so Canada, US, Mexico. And so at that point it was across the entire coast too, like coast to coast. So we do some on the East Coast as well. And there was a group of guys who didn't have EWS factory support, like myself. And basically what we were stuck doing, or not stuck, but what we did instead was did like the national series, because you could kind of drive from race to race and then fly sometimes too. And there was a handful, like maybe 3 or 4 Americans that didn't do that series because they were on an EWS team at the time. But I raced guys, like Marco Osborne, who's like a top 20 EWS guy, Cody Kelly, who's an EWS guy, Nate Hills, Ross Schnell, like JHK, just a ton of really, really great riders raced that series. And so we battled week in and week out, and I was able to get the overall championship 3 years in a row. So
how is it on the pro scene? Like, are you guys like fucking fist bumping, or like, man, fuck that guy, I need to be him? like is everybody pretty cool, or?
Yeah, everyone's really cool. So there's not much like animosity. The only time there gets to be animosity is if, say, you're in like a championship and it's the last few races of the year and people are really tight, because there's some financial obligations or financial reasons to be a little bit nervous.
But like if you're sponsored at that level and you're not winning, like it could be a matter of like, I'm going to get dropped.
Totally. Yeah. And like, even for me, like when I was doing really, really good in 2015, I believe, if I won a race, no matter how much the race paid, I'd basically get like $3,000 or $4,000 on the back end from my sponsors. So like, a first place was like $4,000, a second place was like $2,000, and then a third was like $750. So you're like, fuck, like if someone beats you by 1 second, you're like, God damn it, that was $2,000 that I missed out on by 1 second. So
1 second.
And I've had that happen like many, many times where you're like, and when it's the same guy over and over again, then you kind of get frustrated. But other than that, like everyone's trying to do the same thing. We all practice together and ride together and stay together a lot of times at Airbnbs. So it's a really cool network of guys.
That's awesome. Who are some of the guys that that you still look up to today?
Dude, I don't know if I like really look up to anybody.
Or like guys that you were like, dude, that guy's fucking solid, man. I really like that person.
That's kind of what I was gonna say. Is like I don't really like look up to people, but there's a lot of guys that I respect.
Yeah, I think that was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, and I respect so many of the people that are out there racing just because we're all doing it for the right reasons. Like no one's getting rich off this, and so the reason we're doing it is because we really enjoy it. And if you're a cool dude and you're a good rider, that's cool too. But you don't have to be a good rider for me to have respect for you. So I respect a ton of the amateur dudes as well, and the pro guys too. So
yeah, no, everybody that I've met in mountain biking, like, and I'm a like break it down to that level. Like the mountain biking community for the most part is like super chill fucking group of people. and guys that I've met like you or like Andrew Taylor or Jeff Lanowski, like all these guys that are like fucking dope ass riders, like everybody's like super chill.
Totally.
Like even when I met Richie Rude, like dude, when I said to him like I was like, oh dude, I heard you race. You want to go like go try to see if you can beat me? Like he could have been a fucking dick to me. But instead, he would just laugh, and he was like, "All right, dude, I get it. I see what you're doing." Like,
no, it's funny, and it's such a small sport. Like what I always tried to tell people, especially like up and coming kids that started to get a little bit of an ego. You're like, dude, if you were in Italy and you just won the world championship title, and you go out for pizza that night, no one knows who the fuck you are.
Right?
Like no one cares. And if you're at Safeway, no one's stopping you. No one gives a shit. Like. We're all doing this just because we like it. And some guys have put in more time behind bars, like just riding, and they got good at it. And so if you're good at it, that's cool. But it doesn't mean that you're better than other people.
So let's talk about that, dude. Like, how does that make you feel then whenever it's like somebody like me that's like not a fucking pillar of fitness, that is not a freaking like out there like putting in the work like that you're putting in, at least like at in that way. Like where I can show up and freaking like people know who I am. Like, does that make you feel like what's going on there, man?
No, I mean, you're putting in the work too. It's hours, and your hours editing and your hours doing outreach and your hours doing this stuff are just as valuable as mine training. And in a lot of ways, you're just smarter than us because you're able to like maybe do a little bit less damage to your body and then still have, in the industry. But
yeah, I thought about this, like I'm not a person that by any means wants to like take the food off anybody's table. You know what I mean? Like, and I notice with YouTubers or even just like with Instagram, like there's people that are just Instagram and that's it.
Yeah.
Like they're not even editing videos. They're just like throwing up fucking clips and pictures.
Yeah.
And they're getting these sponsorship deals. They're getting cash. They're getting parts. They're getting like flow,
Yeah.
And it's definitely when you start thinking about that, like at the end of the day, the bike industry, like they have margins, right? So there's like a marketing budget, and they're gonna spend that marketing budget like where it makes them like money.
Yeah.
And it's not like when this new group of social media people came out that they just was like, oh, well, we need to double our marketing budget now. You know what I mean? So I know that if I was in the group of pro riders, I would personally feel like, wow, like either I need to like be part of this or I need to like that's kind of crazy. Like I'm out here fucking killing myself for this.
Oh yeah. Well, and just like from my experience on the other side of that is it has gotten harder than ever to make a dollar being a pro athlete right now, because why would a company pay someone? Why would they give me $10,000 to represent a product when they could give 50 Instagram kids that get a few thousand views on every video? They can just give them some free product.
Yeah.
And then the kids will tag the shit out of it. They'll post it every single day. They'll do whatever they can. And like the cumulative amount of views is probably greater than what I can promote,
Yeah.
So like the I think what sponsors don't necessarily understand yet is that, how many likes equal a sale. And there is no magic formula, because if you have a really devoted following of 35 people, you could sell more product than someone with 300,000 people.
Yeah.
And so
I think there's that. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Jeff Lanowski that I was talking to one night, and we were just like on the phone, chopping it up, drinking beer or whatever. And I'm pretty sure it was him. And we were talking about that, and it was like, there's a different maybe, and if it wasn't, I'm sorry if Jeff, I threw your name out there. Like, there was somebody I was talking to, and they were like, you look, there's a market for different kinds of branding between like social media and a pro rider. Like me as a social media guy, dude, if I tell people that like Fox suspension's the best suspension ever, like that doesn't fucking hold any weight compared to a guy that freaking like is smashing fucking championship rides and knows like, hey, dude, this is like, I can tell you, like somebody like you can be like, I rode that shock and I rode that shock, and I can tell you that shock will make me win, whereas somebody like me can be like, dude, this is the most comfortable helmet that I've ever fucking worn. And more than likely I could probably push more like soft goods like that than somebody that is like pushing that like component to the ends, and also has the skill set to recognize the differences.
Yeah, but I think a good brand has to have both people covered. Like, you have to have the relatable person that can actually, like, say you find another guy who's bigger and you're like, dude, this Fox 36 fork, is great for the racer, but if you're over 200 pounds, the crown separates and it creaks like a motherfucker. So it's not good for that guy. But then you can be like, oh, I found this really cool, like $700 Suntour Duralux, and it's maybe not a race winning fork, but it doesn't creak, it doesn't do anything weird, and I can ride a bike every day on it.
Yeah, so, and I'll tell you that that's something that the bike industry at this point, at least from my perspective, I'm sure you see it as well, that they're starting to learn.
For sure. And the bike industry is just maybe like, it's always kind of 1 to 2 years behind like the average trend. So like you saw guys getting pushed so hard into YouTube in the past like 2 years, pretty much. Like, it's been a big thing for a while, but you're starting to see like all the big companies advertising more on YouTube. You're starting to see the influx of money be so much greater. And the bike industry still, I had a conversation with someone and they were talking about like a pretty good YouTuber guy. And they're like, why would we sponsor that dude? Like, he doesn't even do anything. And you're like, you're missing the point so much. Yeah. Like, you're an idiot. Like, I don't know. It's so hard.
And honestly, like I can relate with what you're saying, because my channel is not huge, but I do have a really solid fucking following.
Totally.
And some of the companies that I've done some stuff with, they're like, dude, we have, like, you sold a shitload of our product, man. Like because you're relatable and people fucking are, they believe what you're saying. Totally. And I'm not saying anything that I don't believe in. Like, I'm fortunately in a spot where I have a full-time job, like, and I'm sure, like, I'm not trying to say anybody like doesn't take a sponsorship that they're not like, believing in. But
it happens.
But that happens, and so like for me, I'm in a spot where it's like, dude, I don't need your product. Like, when I reach out to companies, I'm reaching out to them because it's like, dude, I actually really like what you do. And I would just like to be maybe like compensated for that, whether it's just flow, for me to talk about it, like, and I'm going to talk about it even if you don't, but at least want to freaking try to get some free wheels or something.
Totally. No, it's a really, really quickly evolving landscape right now. And I think that it's hard because like this year for myself, I've had like the most amount of social media hits last year. I did good at some races. I had tons of outreach and been doing stuff behind the scenes, product development, all these photo epic trips and stuff. And it's been the hardest year ever to get sponsorship funding. But
for me, the thing that I feel bad for you guys on is like, basically what this is doing is like telling guys like, oh, you need to be a pro rider and good at social media.
Yeah, and like, good at editing and good at posting and good at, so you have to be multifaceted. And what I keep trying to tell my friends,
taking pictures is not easy.
No.
Like you like, honestly, at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, anybody can take a fucking picture. But like, if you don't take good pictures and like don't have good content on how you're saying it, or you're not engaging people in that, people don't give a fuck, man.
Totally.
I've seen guys that are like dope as fuck riders, dude, sick as shit, but they're not getting a social media following because like they just don't have that part.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and even one thing that I've really experienced a lot lately that's frustrating is like, so 2018, this past year, with like my videos and the reposts that I've gotten from other, Instagram pages, I've had over 10 million views and, thousands and thousands and thousands of likes on all the videos. But what's happened in the past 6 months is that since Facebook owns Instagram, they've slowly been turning it into a pay-to-play situation. And so now if I post a video, it doesn't get nearly the organic reach that it would before. And you're starting to see all these sponsored videos post instead.
Yeah.
So it's tough because like,
I've even had some guys that I know that are in the Instagram game more than the YouTube game say that like, even if you have, like, if you change your Instagram account to a business account so that you can see analytics, that you are not getting promoted as much as if you have a personal account.
Totally.
And it's like, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because it's like, on one hand, it's like you need to see those analytics.
Yeah,
so that you can talk to your partners about it. But on the other hand, if you're not going to get promoted as well, then what the fuck? You know?
And it's frustrating because I feel like I almost pigeonholed myself a little bit, just focusing so hard on that one platform of Instagram and trying to build a good following and get good outreach on there. And now they control my outreach, because if they were to turn off Instagram tomorrow, then I'd lose that not fan base, but I'd lose those followers and the channel to talk to them too. So
it's tough, it's tough, definitely tough, and it's like what if YouTube goes away? There's only a matter of time until, like, YouTube won't go away, but there's only a matter of time until somebody else comes out and tries to do it better. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and I think what you're going to end up having is, luckily, YouTube's owned by Google, and so they benefit from the search engine optimization so much. Right. But I think you're going to start seeing Facebook and Instagram really try to just squeeze all the money out of it. And it's going to become just like something that's unrecognizable from what it is now. And you're already seeing that with, like, it went from 15-second videos to 1-minute videos to now, if I post a video on my story, or sorry, not my story, but my timeline, like an actual Instagram post, it gets hardly any views. But if I do an IGTV, it'll get like 100,000.
Yeah.
Because they're promoting IGTV to fight YouTube.
Yeah.
So anything you do on there.
Instagram is the company right now that you can look at and say, that's the one that's going to be the contender for YouTube for right now. Like they're building that platform, you know what I mean? And I'll tell you, without a doubt, like, I started my YouTube channel, I started my Instagram and my Facebook for BKER all at the same time. I started Twitter at the same time too. And like, my Instagram channel is the one that is, like, as far as outside of my YouTube, like, that's the one that's doing the best, right? So like they definitely have a market. The only thing that I don't like about Instagram that I'll say, and I don't know, like I feel like you could have a bunch of followers because you did like hashtag Hawaii once. They don't mean those followers aren't necessarily like followers in the same sense of YouTube is.
No, it's not. And the other thing too is, on Instagram, it's so easy to buy followers. And that happens a lot. And that's been really frustrating to view on the outside, is like, you can look at people's engagement percentage. There's like some analytics sites, and you can like go through, and sponsors are looking at engagement percentages, but people are buying like tens and tens of thousands of followers, and it's easy. Like, I get hit up every single day in my DMs from just random like Chinese companies. They're like, "Do you want to buy followers?" It's I think it's $100 for 10,000 followers, and you're like, like, it's super easy, and then you can look like you're someone, and I don't know.
I've definitely like thought about. There's a lot of people that will go out like sub for sub shit.
Yeah,
and, like, they'll have like a bot that does that for them. So they'll sub for sub, and then their bot will actually like remove all those subs, and now all of a sudden they got like 30,000 fucking subscribers or 100,000
Totally.
followers.
Well, there's this guy. I don't mind throwing people under the bus sometimes when it's blatant, but they have this guy Mountain Bike Geek on Instagram, and he has I think 98,000 followers, and he gets 900 likes on a photo. And you're like, dude, that doesn't make sense. Like they say that a good engagement percentage with a post is like 10%. So if you have 30,000 followers, you should get 3,000 likes on a good photo. Right. But if you have 98,000, you're getting 900 people and 5 comments. That's bullshit. Yeah. And you're going around shopping the sponsors like, oh, I have this big following. And it's like, I don't know. It's frustrating.
One of the things that somebody told me along the way was like, don't follow a bunch of people and that's what they'll see. So like for me, it's like right now, I think I got like little under 3,000 followers on Instagram, but I follow 50 people.
Yeah.
And so like company can come and look at that and they're like, look, he's definitely not buying these fucking people. What I mean? They see when I post like my engagement's high, I'm talking to them. And that's what I talk to people like, because I don't have big numbers. I'm a niche guy because I'm fucking overweight. I'm not a shredder. I'm just funny. I'm funny. I'm a good talker, and people can relate with that.
Speak for yourself,
right? But like what I always like tell them is like, look, the people that I have, they're dialed, man. Like, thank you guys, all of you guys. Seriously, like you guys are here because I'm not bullshitting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that goes a long way.
In the long run, dude, maybe it'll take me fucking like 10 times longer than some other guys to get big numbers. But the people that I'm with, like I have said from the beginning, like this for me, this is a fucking community, man. That's what I'm building this on. And I am happy to be part of this community and happy to continue to be part of this community. And that's where like I think the truth always fucking shines. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like what you do, like that. I'm like a big believer in like karma. It's like you do it right, man. It's like people will identify with that in the long run. Where it's like if you fucking fluff them for a bit, they'll catch on eventually, dude.
For sure.
For
sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's it's weird to be in the game right now trying to make a living as a rider because I'm not racing as much anymore.
So you're making a change. So like, how does that happen? That's a conversation that I actually haven't gone into detail with, like Andrew Taylor. Like he was, he won freaking, or not won, but he like raced in Rampage, like did a lot of wins, like a badass rider. But what he does now is like they're like his last thing he did is like basically like drove around the whole United States and friggin' like did videos and Instagram and stuff like that in all these states. And, I'm sure he did some other stuff outside of that, but he's not racing, but he's paying the bills,
Yeah, totally. And for me, what it came from and why that transition needed to happen is because I was at the races and I was like not engaged anymore in it. Like I didn't care really how I did. And I was there just like trying to race. But then on every track, there's one or two things that are scary. And if you're not actually focused on what's going on, like it's just an injury waiting to happen. And so I started to like kind of feel myself get a little timid. And as soon as I started to get timid, I'm like, pull the plug. Like I don't need to be here and get hurt because if you're not giving it 100%, that's when you get hurt. And
so how do you make that change? Because I mean, like that's something that like Jeff Lanowski did as well. He turned it into like going out and doing like these sponsorship kind of like demo rides for different shops and stuff like that. And like he's still a quote unquote pro rider, but he's not out. I mean, he's still racing here and there, I think, but he's not like, that's not the mainstay of what he's doing.
I mean, it's tough. It's a tough thing to manage, but luckily because I've been loyal to my sponsors for a long time, like I've been with Suntour for 6 or 7 years. I've been with Shimano for 6 or 7 years. And, I rode for Felt in 2013 and I've been with them for 2 years now again. Like all the brands were really cool with it because they're like, dude, just keep trying to bring value to the table. Like do your thing and go talk to people and relate to people and make their ride better. If you can help us develop the product better, that's awesome. If you can go do a few races and do the social media stuff, that's cool. Like all they want is for me to just be a proactive force in the industry for them, you know? Because like at the end of the day, like I just want to help the brands that I work with just do better. And so that's kind of it, really. But it is hard when you don't have like, I'm going to do this event, this event, this event, this event. They're like, what are you going to do all year? You're like, I don't know. I'll just try to keep it fun. And that's hard for them to kind of cough up money sometimes to make that happen. But
so you're like traveling around, or are you like doing like different events, or are you like doing just like photo shoot kind of stuff? Or
yeah, well, it's kind of tough. It's like jack of all trades, master of none. So in January, I went down and I did a race in Bootleg Canyon, and then I stayed for a few extra days and I shot a promo video for some new Stan's wheels for the Flow EX3, which just came out. And then I went like straight from there, came back home, did a couple little things in home. And then I flew to New Zealand for 2 weeks to go shoot for a project. Then I came back home, did a race in Georgia, came back home, went to Seattle, just did a photo shoot that weekend. And then like I'm still jumping around a lot, but mostly just trying to create content for brands to use, and then also doing product development.
So it's like, so that's how you're and please tell me, like, if you don't want to talk about anything, like be like, let's pass. Like,
no, I'm open. Just, if you have any questions, go for it.
Yeah. So like what it is then is like when you see that sick ass video of the Stan's wheels, like that's what they're paying you for, to come like ride this trail and fucking show that our product's fucking dope. Like that.
Yeah, or like with that Stan's project, what it was, hey, we have this opportunity. We're going to do a new wheel launch. Would you like to be a part of it? I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. I want to do this, this, and this. Here's a videographer I want to bring down. And they're like, all right, cool. We'll cover all the expenses for that. And then we'll get it. Like basically you come down, you get a free edit. And then in return, they gave me like a little bit of extra product on the side for that. So, and
Stan's
like
still all aluminum. They're not doing carbon yet, are they?
They do have some carbon rims, but I don't run any of the carbon stuff. I run aluminum just because it's like easier. And I don't know. I ran carbon wheels in the past and been sponsored by some brands in the past that were carbon, and I just break them too much, like way too much. So I just run aluminum and good spoke tension, and they're solid. So
right on, dude.
Yeah.
I think for a guy like me, man, actually, Steve and I had this conversation earlier today. Or maybe it was somebody else on the trail, and they were talking about like how I felt about carbon wheels, and I was like, as a big guy, fucking like, I'm not telling you that you can't build a great freaking aluminum wheel, because I rode Stan's flows for a long time and loved them. As long as you had good hubs, dude, that's like, to me, that's the more important part of the wheel.
Totally.
But as a big guy, dude, like I'll get on some guys' wheels, dude, that like demoing a bike or something like that, and I'll feel that flex. I mean, I'm a fucking motherfucker, dude. You know what I mean? So like, I'll feel that flex, and like, or at least for me, like that little bit of flex when let me back up for a second.
Well, like I understand what you're saying too, and that's like again, everything, you have different riding styles and different everything, but what I came from was like when I was racing a bunch at the events, like if you break a wheel, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And so for me, like a little bit of added flex is worth the not broken wheel. And then from a consumer standpoint, like one Envy rim is $700 and one Stan's rim is $68.
Right.
So you're like, oh, okay, cool. But at the same time, like I rode Envies for a long time and they were sweet. But yeah, if you're at a race and you crack one, you're like, oh no. Yeah, that's where I came from.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, in Sedona a couple of weeks ago, like I pushed a spoke through my rim tape, and that doesn't stop. like Stan's or Orange Seal or whatever you're using doesn't stop that hole.
No, I can't touch that. It's on the bottom.
Yeah, at that point, like if I was racing, like obviously I'm not a racer, but like if I was racing, like that would have stopped it. That would have been the end of it. So like I can see what you're saying, like that's definitely like you're going for. I want something that's definitely going to be durable. Yeah.
Yeah, like the lightest bike that I've ever raced on is 32 pounds.
Right on.
Like 30 to 32 pounds is like my kind of standard going rate.
I'm like when I met you, what do you weigh? Probably like
170.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like for me though, like to have stuff that holds up throughout a whole race season or throughout a whole weekend, going fast and like just hitting the sketchy stuff, like I need aluminum wheels. I need downhill casing or close to downhill casing tires. And, I'd run like SLX or XT components that are just a little bit more durable, and aluminum handlebars, aluminum stem, aluminum, everything. Like the only thing carbon I have on my bike is my frame and my headset spacers. So,
I was having a conversation with somebody recently, like, and this was what I was kind of getting into a second ago. Like, it takes a long time of riding bikes to really be able to notice differences. Like, some people are pretty like in tune with it, like they're better than others. Like this guy like is better at noticing. Like, we go demo a bike together, like he'll be like, oh, I feel this. Like, I don't get that. Like, but it does take a long time to be like, oh, I know that this hub with this engagement makes this difference. I know that this wheel set makes this difference. I know that this kind of tire makes this difference.
Totally.
And that takes a lot of experience to get that. But
or even like with felt bicycles, I've been helping them develop a prototype bike right now. And we're at the stage where we're literally like, they send me 3 different rear triangles with slightly different carbon layup, and then you have to test a different carbon layup and see which one feels better.
Right
so
on.
It's like, I mean,
just saw Jeff Lanowski in the chat, man. He must have knew we were talking about him.
Oh, that's funny. Jeff's a man.
So let me ask you about this. So with the carbon layup, knowing the 3 different ones, can you feel that difference? And it's like, oh, this is absolutely noticeable.
Yeah, and they did a pretty good job of making it a big enough difference. So like the light one was, I think, 50 grams lighter than stock, and then the heavy one was 50 grams heavier. So that's like a lot of carbon material difference, but you can totally feel it. And especially like the stiff one in that case was really good in corners, and it was good on landings, so the wheel didn't flex. But where it wasn't good was on rock gardens, like the high frequency vibrations. It transmitted a lot to your feet. So you're like, oh man, like we have to figure out this fine-tuned balance and then do what's best for the consumer at the end of the day. So
that's what I was going to say earlier when I was kind of leading up to it, was like, how do you get to the point where you can actually tell the difference in a frame?
Yeah.
Because I've been riding for a long time, and I still cannot, aside from a road bike, like the difference between an aluminum and a carbon frame, like I don't know if I have the skill set to actually like know the difference. Like, do you?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that just that comes from spending so much time on a certain model, and then you just slowly change. Because like when I rode for Marin, I basically rode the same bike for 3 years straight, which is the Attack Trail. And because of that, like we went through very, very small revisions, and you learn so much from the bike and what each little thing does. But
right. So like when you're like, and that's one of those things like when I did the Bronson review on the new bike, I said to him, I was like, let's go up here and let's rent the new one. And since he's just about as tall as I am, like I won't be able to tell the difference unless I ride mine, the old one, and ride the new one and then get back on mine. Like I won't be able to tell the difference if I was to just like go ride it, and then also not ride it on my trails.
Totally.
I can't freaking tell you, like, is that better? Like, I will know if it's better. That's like, oh, I cleaned that section that I don't normally clean. And I didn't clean it because I was feeling strong, because I actually did that on the second lap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's whenever you can really like.
Well, and I think one thing that's tough too is that with a bicycle, it's the most technically advanced non-motorized sport. Like, it's insane as far as non-motorized sports. You have hydraulic suspension, you have hydraulic brakes, you have carbon frame layups, tires, wheels, spoke tensions you can play with. So there's so many variables. And the hardest thing for a lot of people is maybe they feel something, but they don't know what to change to address it. And so like racing different tracks, like we'd go race a race in Colorado, and then 1 week later you'd be on the same bike on the East Coast, and you have to set it up completely different for that type of dirt and that terrain. Then 1 week later we'd be in Whistler, and you got to set it up completely different for that. So, I mean, we do things even like, changing spoke tensions very slightly just to get more flex out of it and compliance and all kinds of fun stuff. So there's a lot you can do. And once you tweak with everything, you're like, oh, that's what that does. But
right. That makes sense.
I always compare it kind of to like a guitar player. A good guitar player can make it in tune just with his ear.
Right.
But for me, I got to have the little fucking dumb thing on the top and be like, how the hell does this work? Ding, and tune it.
Yeah.
And I think you see that a lot with people like with the Shock Whiz and things like that, like those, shock analyzers, whatever.
I know exactly what we're talking about.
like some guys need that to kind of point them in direction, and that's totally fine. And then other guys can feel like, oh, I need 2 more clicks of low speed. The high speed's a little bit stiff. We need to back that down. Or like my oil's a little bit thick. Like I need to go from a 10 to 7.5 weight and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. When you have that experience, I can definitely agree or like relate with you in that manner too. Like where like I always like don't realize how much I know about bikes until I'm starting to talk to somebody that doesn't know about them.
Totally.
And like when somebody that's just riding, I had this conversation I think on the biker bar last week, where it's like when somebody just gets started and they're like, they sit on a bike and they're like, oh yeah, I'm comfortable. And they don't actually know like, oh, you're not comfortable in this specific spot because your seat's not tilted enough, or
Totally.
like you're like get on it and you're like, oh no, the stem's too high, or like I don't like it. Like these bars are a little bit too wide. I prefer that. Like, but when somebody's just starting to ride, like they don't even know how to articulate what they're feeling, you know?
No, not at all. And sometimes it's almost that situation of ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Some of those guys have the biggest smile on their face coming down the trail.
Right.
And they're like, dude, this is sick. But then you'll see a guy who's been tweaking on his bike for 10 hours and he's like, fuck, like my tire is 1 PSI too stiff. You're like, fuck off, dude.
Yeah, right.
Just ride, you know? So
yeah, I actually said that today on the ride that we did today. I was like, look, dude, like it doesn't matter how good your bike is. It doesn't matter like how in shape you are. It doesn't matter like who you're riding with. Like what matters is that what you're doing right now is making you happy.
Yep.
And like if you need to buy a new bike that has a carbon frame and carbon wheels to make you happy, like if that's the thing that makes you feel like you're happy, sweet. But if you can do it on a fucking $800 freaking bike,
yeah,
then be like all the goal of this is to be happy. Like on your level, there's a different goal. But for like most of these people out there riding bike, it's like, dude, don't fucking beat yourself up over this bullshit, man. This is supposed to be fun, man. It's not supposed to be fucking stressful.
totally.
You know?
Well, and some people like the biggest crowd I ever met that does the tweaking on stuff is like the RC car crowd.
Yeah.
And half or more than half of the fun for them is just sitting there fucking changing 1 millimeter shock preload and seeing how it does different, you know?
Yeah.
So I totally understand both sides of the spectrum, but I definitely get in my own head way too much. Like coming from the product development side, like I'll be riding down the trail and be like, oh shit, like this is just slightly off, or this, you know, like my handlebar is 2 millimeters too high, or like we just have been doing handlebar testing and going from like a 70-75 aluminum to a 2014. So you have a softer aluminum, so you get more compliance. Like that's a huge difference. And I'll go like do a shuttle and I'll have the stiffer one on my bike. I'm like, fuck, my whole ride's ruined because the bar's stiff. You're like sometimes I have to like slap myself, be like, quit being such a dumbass, like just go have fun, you know?
Right.
But yeah, it's good and bad, but sometimes I can turn it off. And honestly, like going and riding with my girlfriend is like the most fun for me because I can turn that completely off and just let her go in front and I just have a good time. And like, that's what I
were talking about this earlier today. Yeah. We were talking about like riding with the lady, and it's like when you're, and not to say that ladies can't ride because there's plenty of ladies out there can ride way better than me, but my lady doesn't ride as good as me on the downhill. She could probably climb better than me, but like whenever I ride with her, it's like I'm not trying to just like smash rocks and freaking kill shit. It's like, okay, this is when I'm gonna like spend time to think about this or session that, or I'm going to get up there and dick around with this rock for a little bit while I'm waiting on her. And like, that's just as fun.
Totally.
You know?
Totally. Yeah. It's a good time. And I like truly enjoy just watching people have a good time on the bike, because I know how much it's brought me over the years. And like going to like Sedona Mountain Bike Festival or any mountain bike festival for that matter, and doing like a group ride.
No, dude.
I can't
speak well enough about that event because it is like they have captured the vibe correctly there.
Totally.
Yeah.
But going to those events and like leading a group ride and getting someone to do a new feature that they've never done or they didn't think they could do, and like just seeing like the sense of accomplishment on their face, like that brings me back to all the good times on a bike, you know? Like, I'm like, that's why we do this. So
hands down, that's the most important thing, is seeing someone like, as far as like when I watch videos, as a consumer, I guess is the side that I'm on. It's watching someone conquer something that they've never done before and proven that they can do it, and then they just see the excitement that they've done this.
Yeah, you can't fake that sound in somebody's voice when they're like fucking amped about something. Yeah,
I know, that's funny. Like, I could see that it's hard to relate to guys that are good sometimes, because then it's like some of the things just look so easy, and you're like, I don't want to watch that. I want to see someone like feel like they're gonna die and just barely get down this thing, you know?
Yeah.
That's way more entertaining.
Yeah, totally. I know it's hard. I got to figure out how to capture that a bit better.
Well, I'm sure like the better that you get, like it's harder and harder to get that feeling, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like, for Andrew Taylor, I'm like for him, he's like can hit this like fucking insane gap, dude, like flipping his bike around and upside down and sideways and shit. It's like, dude, what gives you the thrill, man?
Yeah.
You know, like,
no, it's definitely harder. And I think as far as like riding trail features and like steep stuff or weird like rock rolls and everything, once you figure out your brake control and how to like go down pretty much anything without skidding, like if you can actually manage traction, then like your riding world gets so much easier. And then it's kind of like you can go slow down anything. You might not kill it, but you can make it down anything. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
kind of like when I've taught people how to ski, I always have taught them like once you learn how to stop, you can actually ride anything on this entire mountain.
Totally. Same exact thing.
You know how to stop, you know?
Totally. Yeah. And like one of my friends told me that he's like, all right, so think about your traction as you either have 100% traction or 100% braking. Anytime you're on the brakes, you're taking away from that traction meter, you know, and it's going towards braking. And 100% braking is a skid, and you don't want that. So like you kind of have to meter it and be like, all right, how much traction do I have? How much braking am I giving? And feather it a lot. And then once you can figure that out, you can roll anything pretty much. But it's hard.
Yeah, and there's also this other part they didn't talk about, that's balls.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of times I'm missing the balls.
Yeah.
But my traction and my braking I got right dialed, but the balls part, that's the part where I don't have it all the time.
Yeah. The worst is when you're scared of something, and then you go into it a little bit like tight, and then that's what makes you fuck up. So it's hard to just be like, all right, we can do this. But
that's one of those things that always comes back to me in mountain biking, is like from back in my BMX days, was like, I remember that jump or that whatever that we were doing, and it was like how afraid you were to do it. But once you did it, it was like super easy.
Totally.
You know, and it was like you just have to do it that one time. And it's like, but you can't be fucking doing it that one time and actually not have the skill set to do it.
No.
You know? But like that's the one thing that I try to tell myself, where it's like, dude, like, you know how to ride. You've done this. Like maybe it's some exposure that's making you worried, or it's like wet today and that's what's making you worried. But it's like, no, dude, like, be confident in yourself and do this. And that first, after you do it once, you're like, oh yeah, I'll do that every time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I have an event that I'm trying to do that I have been doing every year up in Downeyville, and ultimately I'd love to see that grow into something bigger. And what I'm really trying to do, dude, is like make a Sedona in Downeyville. I feel like Downeyville is like primed for that kind of event. Mm-hmm. Like they have the right vibe there. They have a great trail system. They have a good way to get people up to the top. And it's even like better than Sedona in that manner, where it's like you get people up to the top, and depending on their skill set level, like there's lots of different time frames that people come down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in explaining that, I've heard that you're building something that's a little new.
Yeah, with the fundraiser.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you know, as a lot of you guys may or may not know, there was that big fire in Paradise, California, or basically in Butte County. It affected a lot of the cities, but that was last year, kind of at the end of the year. And I believe like 20,000 plus homes were burned down, and, you know, more than 30,000 people were displaced. And so
for people that aren't familiar with the area that he's talking about, encompasses the, like, it's pretty close to Chico, like where you grew up.
Yeah, so Chico, California is my hometown, and basically 5 miles as the crow flies is Paradise, California. It's up the hill. So it's just up on the ridge. And then that fire started just above Paradise and encompassed the whole kind of northern, like northwest Butte County area. And northeast Butte County area. But yeah, it was pretty tragic. And so I just am working with a few of my sponsors, and Richard over at stickered.com has been helping me design like a really cool poster and some logoing. We're going to do a bike giveaway. So like a raffle style giveaway. We're going to do a full carbon felt decree, which is like a, felt high-end mountain bike, 140 mil travel, 150 in the front. And then it's going to have a full Shimano XT drivetrain, Stans wheels, Michelin tires, Suntour suspension, PNW, cockpit, ergon saddle, ergon grips. I think it'll have some one-up components like chain guide, pedals, and then it'll have a full, like you get to pick your kit from Fly Racing, like helmet, jersey, shorts, gloves. And then you also get like a feedback components toolkit, and you get a bunch of other just random fun things.
Oh, this is awesome. I think Stickered is also doing like a full custom sticker set on the bike as well, right?
Yeah, and then the winner will also get a full custom sticker kit basically for the bike. They get to help design that. And then at the end of it all, I'm going to get all the parts shipped to me, going to film like kind of a video building it all up, and then send it out to you personally. So get the bike all built. I will help build the bike, get it all set up for you, and send it out. And you get to pick whatever frame size you need as well.
That's amazing. So how do people get in on this?
So we're going to go live with it probably next week, hopefully. And either next week or right at Sea Otter. And it's going to be just a web page that you can go on, and every $5 that you enter gives you one entry fee, basically.
Oh,
sorry, every $5 is one entry. And then at the end of it all, we're going to
like the $5 a foot that Santa Cruz does.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So it'll be cool. And then when we pick a winner, however much money we have set aside is going to go through Chico Velo, which is like the local nonprofit in Chico, California. And a small, like about 30% of that is going to go to the high school mountain bike team to buy some bikes for the kids. Basically, Paradise High School is no more. They have a temporary high school in Chico, and a lot of those kids lost, bicycles and kind of a sense of community in the fire. So we're going to help kids get on bikes and join the NICA High School League there, to kind of give them some friends to like let some steam off with. And then another portion of the money is going to go towards a fund for people that basically the rest of the money is going to go for therapy. So for people that basically were escaping the fire and having that kind of PTSD like symptoms from that experience, they're going to be able to go in and get some help and do some counseling sessions with the money. So
amazing, dude.
Yeah, so that'll be cool, because I think mental health is like such a big subject in the country we need to focus more on. And I think that there's a lot of families that are middle class that don't necessarily qualify for, like, there's a few low income programs to get some therapy through, but like the middle class family can't really afford that. And so I think that there's a lot of people that could benefit from talking to someone and helping them kind of recover through that now that the dust has settled a bit. Because it's been 6 months since that happened, but there was such a huge influx of aid and people and all these things coming into Chico. It's just been like a giant shit show for the past few months. And hopefully now that it's like calming down, we can do something really cool for them.
What made you decide you wanted to do that?
I never even thought about not doing something. So it's it's my hometown. Like, I love everyone there. I love the Butte County community, and I want to help as much as I can. I helped a pump track get built there, like a free local pump track we did for the kids in Chico, and that's been a huge success. And if I can help give back a little bit and just get a few more people on bikes and then get some people some therapy, along with all the sponsors, like, they're super happy to do it. And basically I just call them. It's like, hey, can we do this? They're like, yep, we got your back. Just tell us what you need. And that's why I work with the brands I work with.
Yeah, no, totally. So when you launch that, is like the best way for people to like just follow your Instagram, or like?
Yeah, so I'll post it on Instagram. I'm also gonna post a video on YouTube, basically just kind of outlining everything, and we're gonna have like a digital mock-up of the bike that we can show.
Like your personal YouTube?
Yeah, and it says Kyle Warner MTB. So just kind of
same as your Instagram as well?
Yep, same as Instagram too. So we're gonna do that, and then I'm just gonna make a quick video saying what we're doing, where the money's going, and then kind of showcase all the stuff you can win. And another cool thing is I have about 25 athletes that are confirmed, like Brandon Semenik, Nikolai Rogatkin, Richie Rude, Jill Kittner, all these people are going to donate some memorabilia too. So there's going to be about 30 kind of runner-up prizes too.
Oh, wow. That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool, dude.
Yeah. Hopefully.
All together yourself?
Yeah. Well, not just myself, but I've been spearheading it. And then,
help. I mean, obviously, but I mean, like at the end of the day, like somebody needs to drive that train, you know?
Totally. Well, and everyone's been cool. Like I literally just hit up people on Instagram. Hey, I'm going to do this raffle. Would love to have some of your gear. Is that cool? And like getting replies from all the guys like Seminuk and all these artists like, yeah, no problem. Let's do it. So that's going to be really cool. And I think we're going to probably run it for about a month to a month and a half, probably more towards a month and a half just to get some more support for it. And then Pink Bike, Vital, and like the Lone Wolf will all post about it too. So.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be cool. I'd love to raise, $30,000 or $50,000 and be able to like actually give a good chunk to like the Chico Butte County community to get people some counseling. Cause I know like, dude, there's so many people that have like full on PTSD from driving through the fire, going down the freeway. The whole town of Paradise is set up on propane. So like all the propane tanks are exploding. There's fireballs shooting everywhere. People are like literally thinking they're going to lose their lives. And then
I watched some video of like some cop driving through there, like whenever that shit was happening. It was like, I couldn't even imagine if that was like driving down the street past my house. Like,
yeah,
fucking insane. Like that's one thing about California, man. That's like, that's rough to see that, like people always think about like, I'm not from California, I'm from Pennsylvania. So like in my head, like California is like all beaches and palm trees, and then they have earthquakes. But like, honestly, the earthquakes aren't like what fuck shit up out here. It's the fires, and it's like when you see some of that footage, like drone footage of like Redding, like when they had their fire, like, it's just insane, man. It's like thousands of people without homes.
Yeah, it's unimaginable. Like I went back in December, kind of right after it happened, and basically was driving around trying to just get like an idea of the devastation and just try to see how would be the best way to help. And I went to like one of the mobile home parks, and like the entire mobile home park is gone. And there was a lady there, her name was actually Angel, and she was just sitting there in her car, like trying to catch the cats and the animals that escaped. And she had been there for like 10 days, every single day, trying to find her cat that got out during the fire. And,
that's emotional shit, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking rough, dude. It's like, when I was younger, like that wouldn't have a lot of fucking weight, because I'd just be like, oh, sweet. That's awesome. How am I going to get drunk tonight and whether or not I'm going to get laid? And it's like, as I got a little older, all of a sudden it's like, you think about, like, dude, how would I deal with like some of these people like went down to their buddy's house in Sacramento that night and were never able to come. Like imagine that, like tonight you're going to go over to your buddy's house, drink some beers with him. You're thinking, oh, I might stay down there, dude, because I don't want to drive home. It's a long drive. And then everything that you didn't have in your car is gone.
Well, and your town is gone.
Yeah.
Every building, like it's so crazy to go up there because literally every building is gone. Like there's nothing. And you're like, this was a town. That's where I used to go up and ride street and ride mountain bikes in Paradise. And like we'd ride our road bikes up there all the time. Yeah. And it's gone. Like there's nothing. And it's so weird because like the trees and everything are just perfect. And then all of a sudden, like all the houses just burned because the ashes were blown through the wind. So
well, that's like those cities too, where I remember hearing like they weren't sure if that city was even going to be able to come back from it.
Yeah, I don't think they really have an idea yet if it's going to be able to be recovered because think about in every single person's garage, think about how many gallons of oil you have laying around and all the aerosol stuff and everything toxic you could imagine. And all of that just burned and then just leached down into the groundwater.
Yeah.
So that whole area is pretty toxic right now. So I don't know what's going to happen long term, but.
Well, and even outside of that, like some of the stuff that I was hearing where they're like, dude, you don't even know if like the cost to rebuild all that infrastructure is like it doesn't like it may not even be like fiscally like responsible.
Yeah, it might not make sense.
You know, it's like some people may be able to do that, but it's like let's just think about like like I work in the tech industry, and like if you're in an area that doesn't have fiber out there to be able to get internet, like it's like they need like hundreds of thousands of dollars to like maybe make that make sense.
Totally.
So, like if that city doesn't build out completely, it's like, dude, if we don't have 30,000 subscribers there, it's not worth us to freaking spend a $500,000 or $10 million to build this, because we're not going to recoup that money for 70 years.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. And I hope that, I mean, obviously too, this fundraiser thing that we're doing is just going to be like a very, very, very small, you know, chunk of making things a little bit better. But as long as we can help people, you know, have a place to discuss what happened and try to get them back on track, and then give the kids an area to go hang out with friends. And that's all I care about.
Yeah, I did a little fundraiser thing for the stuff up in Redding, and it was that same thing. Like there was a bunch of bikes that we were able to like, not me specifically, but I was part of it. It was like, you know, helping promote the thing that they were doing. It was like, that's a big deal, man. It's like just to like some of those kids, like I saw pictures on Instagram, like after they got their bikes, it was like they had nothing, but it was like, man, I got a fucking bicycle again, you know?
Totally.
That's like, it's worth its weight in gold, man. You know?
Yeah, and there's one of my other sponsors is amaincycling.com, and they do like, you know, kind of like a Jensen or a Performance Bicycles online web store. They have a really cool company, but basically they have spent so much time and money just building and gathering different bicycles, because they have a local shop there in Chico too. And I went down there and helped them build some bikes for kids and for families in like right before Christmas. And yeah, it's crazy, but there's so many people there that are willing to help. And I think the one thing that we always focus on material goods, trying to get people back in their house and back situated as fast as possible. But I think mental health is like something that sometimes gets overlooked. And if a family, you know, could go in and the kids could kind of chat and like decompress a little bit, then hopefully it'll help them. So
no, I think that's really cool that you're like leaning towards that aspect of it as well, because emotionally that's tragic, you know, and like too many of us try to just like ruck up and drive on and not deal with shit. And that like, that has a lot of other ripples, you know?
It does, big time. And I think that, you know, even just doing this and the Butte County community feeling all the love from all the pro athletes that are going to help donate as well. Like, I think that just knowing that they're thought of and supported by everyone is like a huge help too. Yeah. So I don't know, it'll be cool. I think it'll be really cool. And I appreciate everyone who's helped so far and can't wait to get it rolling. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So definitely swing by his fucking Instagram or his YouTube channel. As you said, it was Kyle Warner MTB.
Yep. Yeah, that's both of them. So either one, but
I'll throw those in the show more.
Yeah. And I'll let you guys know as soon as it does go live. So you're kind of hearing about this first, but yeah, everything's all built out. I got all the parts secured and ready to go. And basically we're just doing the last few tweaks on the website and then launching it. So
that's super exciting, man. That's super exciting. I think that if you're in any aspect of this community, whether you're a pro rider, you're an Instagram person, you're a YouTube person, I think if you're not doing some kind of work to like kind of give back to the community, you're doing it wrong.
Totally.
You know? And like even one of my first like things that I was part of, there was like a guy that was just trying to like raise some money for one of his buddies that was in his unit in the military that had PTSD real bad. And he's like, this dude really needs a bike, you know? So like, let's see if we can like get some parts together between like our group of friends to build this guy a bike, you know? And he had posted on like MTBR, and we ended up starting a GoFundMe, or he ended up starting a GoFundMe, and I like helped. I did a video to like try to bring some awareness to it. We ended up getting this dude a fucking like a sick ass bike, and that guy's life was changed from that, you know?
Totally.
Not only from the fact that he had the bike, but like the emotional part of people that don't know me saw value in giving him something.
Yeah.
You know, like
that goes a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember just as a kid growing up, like the moment that I realized that I could become something, become a pro at anything, was when I saw Aaron Rodgers get drafted to the NFL and become like a star because he's from Chico.
Yeah.
And like I'm from Chico, and I was like, holy shit, I can do something with my life. Just like that small, just him succeeding made me feel like I could succeed. And
Yeah.
I think that having people think of you and knowing that like, hey, the whole bike community knows who Butte County is. We're all behind you. Like we want to help support everyone as much as we can. And that goes a long way.
Sometimes you forget that you're actually like influencing people, you know?
Yeah, totally.
You know, it's like for me, I'm like, dude, I'm freaking sitting in my garage drinking beers, talking to people, and like I'm riding bikes here and there. And it's like just today I had a guy tell me, like, dude, like if it wasn't for watching your channel, like you're a big dude. And he was a big guy too. And he's like, you know, like that really like inspired me to know that like, no, I can go out there and do that, you know? And it was
That's
like,
awesome.
you know, it's like one of those things where it's like, holy shit, man. Like when I started this, I didn't think that I would be ever an inspiration to people, you know, and I still don't think I'm an inspiration to people. I'm like, dude, fucking fat guy, man, freaking drinking beers and like riding bikes allegedly, you know, like how the hell did I do that? But it's like those things where it's like I've had guys like send me an email and be like, dude, your videos just made me laugh while I was in the hospital because I broke my fucking whatever riding bike, and it just that little bit of like happiness was good for me. And I'm like, holy shit, man, like how the fuck, dude, is like that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, you know, and I'm sure it's the same thing for you. Like it's like you're probably like giving some little kid a high five or something like that, and that kid could be the next Kyle Warner, you know?
Yeah. No,
like,
it's cool. And that's one reason that I really want to I've been focusing really hard on trying to build a portfolio as like a product tester so that I can be of value to companies without having to worry about my social media numbers. Because like I don't want to do things for likes or views or any of that stuff. I just want to do things because I truly enjoy it, and I want to be able to connect with people and like, you know, help kids out. And like me and this guy B1KER Braid, who's on Instagram too, like we're doing a free clinic here in Boise at the end of April. So it's like open to basically 75 people, and there's beginner, intermediate, and advanced. We're going to do a free clinic on a Saturday and just teach people how to ride, and you know, it's just stuff like that. So that's what I really care about. And I'd like to do that rather than have to be worried about like, oh, I don't have enough subscribers or followers or any of this. So, yeah.
So we're getting pretty close to 2 hours here. Tell me what's your favorite place to ride up in Boise, dude?
There's this trail called Dry Creek, and it's so sick. It's like I don't know, I think it's like 13, 14 mile shuttle downhill. And it's a blast the whole time. It's high speed, ripping through the woods, and there's a couple like little fun creek crossings with wooden ladder bridges and good just flow. I love anything that has good flow and over 20 mile an hour average speed. Like that's my favorite.
Yeah. Anything that I can ever get over 20 miles an hour is probably a good deal for me. So,
dude, there's one trail called I think it's like 8th Street Trail. It's like a moto trail that I ride on my e-bike sometimes, and I'll pedal up and hit that. And like literally there's sections where you're going 45 miles an hour for like a sustained period of time. Just like, yeah, da, 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 da. Like
that's insane, dude.
So sick.
I've hit 40 miles an hour on my bike once, dude. And that was definitely freaking, maybe I've done it more than once, but it was only once that I actually saw it on the Garmin. So I was like, holy shit, dude, that was cooking.
Yeah. I raced the Mega Avalanche in 2013.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah. Like big race in France, like the mass start.
Dude, what was that like?
It was insane, dude. But it's 5 minutes of like a snow. Basically, if people don't know, it's a 400-person mass start race on a glacier in France, and you race.
It's fucking stupid, dude. If you haven't seen a video of this, like it is 400 people just eating shit for at least the first 3 minutes, man.
Dude, it was crazy. And the year I went was in 2013. It was the most snow they've ever had, and I hit 62 miles an hour on the snow.
Oh yeah, dude, you're watching these guys like
fucking hauling ass.
Like flying, and then it's like, oh, there's a turn right there, and they're like just like people just like just piling up on the corners, man.
It was like the only time I've ever been at a bike race, and I felt like I was getting ready for war.
Yeah.
Like I was ready to like strap my helmet on, just be on beach in Normandy, just going for it. I was like, holy shit, we're gonna die.
Like, there's not like, oh, well, we only had 16 quadriplegics, and like, it's just like so fast.
Yeah, in Europe, they just run it a little bit more ragged. They just, it's like, oh yeah, do what you want, go have fun. It's crazy.
Europeans don't have the same kind of lawyers that we have in the United States, I think.
No, they don't. Yeah,
they're like, oh, like even like the cops over. I used to live in Germany, and like if there was a fight in the bar, like they would come into the bar, throw tear gas in, beat everybody up, and then afterwards ask questions.
Totally.
Like there was no police brutality. It was like, oh, well, you shouldn't have been there, you dumbass.
Yeah, totally.
So I can only imagine how they run their freaking make an avalanche.
Yeah, it was cool. I'm actually going to go back this year. So this summer I'm doing it in the e-bike category. I'm going to try that out and see what it's all about. So
that sounds super fun, man.
Yeah, it should be cool.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up, man. Hey, dude, I super appreciate you freaking taking the time to sit down and chat with me. I would have never thought whenever you showed up in my garage to sell me that bike that a couple years later we'd be doing a podcast together.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a small world, like you said. The bike industry is small.
It's cool. Funny how things fall into place, man.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, definitely. There's like no doubt about it. Like I when I bumped into you in Sedona, I think it was last year, and I was like, dude, we gotta fucking get together, man.
Totally. Right.
It's just for me, I just feel like that story of like I bought the bike from you and like I had no fucking clue who you were. You were like, oh yeah, I actually race mountain bikes. Like, so it's just a fun story. And honestly, you're a great guy. I think that anybody that sit here and listen to our conversation, there's no way that they won't know. Like you definitely have a big heart, and you're not trying to bullshit your way through life, dude. And I appreciate that, man.
No, just trying to float through life like everyone else and try to have a good time and do the right thing as much as possible. So that's where I'm at. And luckily I found bikes, and that's made life a lot more enjoyable for me. That's awesome, man. So everybody out there, anybody that's threw up a super chat while we were chatting, thank you very much. I'm sorry if I missed some. I really didn't have much. I wasn't paying attention to the comments that much this time. I apologize to you guys, but honestly, like Kyle was quite the interesting person, so it was easy to get drawn into that. Next week, we are going to have Hans Ray on the show. If you don't know who he is, look him up, dude. He is actually. Hey, Steve, why don't you tell him who Hans Ray is? I think he rides bikes. He rides bikes. I believe bikes. Hans is a man, dude. A little while. He's been so when we were in Sedona, I drove down there with 3 other guys, and he was one of them. And the night before we were getting ready to leave, they were gearing up to go big on the alcohol scene. And I was like, dude, it's a 12-hour drive from Sedona back to Sacramento. Fuck you, bitches. I'm going to bed tonight. And so I stayed back in the room and went to sleep. And these guys showed up at like fucking 2 or 3 in the morning. May or may not have been housed. And they're like, dude, we met Hans Ray, man. And we were fucking hanging out with him. He's like super you know who Hans Ray is? And I was like, actually, I don't know who Hans Ray is because I don't know who pro riders are. Apparently, I met Kyle Warner in my garage, didn't know who he was. And Steve proceeded to tell me who Hans Ray was about 16 times. 17. Yeah. And they were like, dude, we got his card. He's going to be on the biker bar. And I'm like, you guys are like my fucking media crew now, or what? That's what's going on. So anyways, Hans Ray's going to be on. He's a trials rider from from Germany, back in the day, from Germany, from old Deutschland, the motherland, right? So he'll be on next week, hopefully. Every time I'm just about to start a show, I'm fucking stressing, dude. I'm like, are they coming? I don't know. Is this going to be the one where somebody flakes on me in the last second? So next week, hopefully Hans Ray. Thank you guys, dude, for watching. Subscribe and support. There's 28 of you guys that are still on right now because you know I'm like wrapping this shit up. Hit the thumbs up button before you do that. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down button twice. That'll be awesome. And remember one thing and one thing only. It only takes a bike to be a biker. Get the fuck out and be one, bitches.